When I asked about my granddaughter's wedding, my daughter replied, "Dad, it's going to be a small ceremony. Just immediate family. We didn't want it to feel crowded." I stood in my kitchen in Calgary, holding the phone, trying to process what she'd just said. Immediate family. I was her father. I'd raised her alone after her mother passed when she was 7. For 23 years, it had been just the two of us against the world. "Katie," I said slowly, "I am immediate family." There was a pause. "Well, you know what I mean. Ryan's parents, his sister, me and him. We want to keep it intimate. You understand, right?" I didn't understand. But I said I did, because that's what I'd always done with Katie. Ever since she'd met Ryan Whitmore 3 years ago, I'd been saying I understood a lot of things I didn't understand at all. "Of course, sweetheart," I heard myself say. "Whatever makes you happy." After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, looking out at the November snow beginning to fall. I thought about the $40,000 I'd transferred to Katie's account 6 months ago when she'd called, crying about the wedding venue requiring a non-refundable deposit. I thought about the $15,000 I'd sent 2 months later for the catering. I thought about every piano recital, every parent-teacher conference, every late night when she'd had the flu and I'd stayed up holding a cool cloth to her forehead. Immediate family. My name is Thomas Brennan. I'm 63 years old, and I've been a petroleum engineer for 40 years. I'd worked the oil fields in northern Alberta, saved every penny I could, invested carefully, and built a comfortable life for my daughter and myself. After my wife Sarah died, Katie became my entire world. I never remarried. I poured everything into raising her right. Katie had always been a sweet girl, sensitive, artistic, maybe a little naive. She'd studied graphic design at the University of Calgary, worked at a small marketing firm downtown. Then she'd met Ryan Whitmore at some networking event, and everything changed. Ryan came from money. His father owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across Western Canada. Their family lived in one of those massive estates in Aspen Woods, the kind with the circular driveway and the 3-car garage. Ryan himself worked in business development at his father's company, though I'd never quite understood what that meant beyond playing golf with potential clients. From the start, I'd felt something was off. Ryan was smooth, charming, always said the right things, but there was a coldness in his eyes when he looked at me, a calculation I didn't like. Katie couldn't see it. She was dazzled by the restaurants he took her to, the weekend trips to Banff and Jasper, the life he represented. "Dad, Ryan's family is very particular about things," Katie had told me once. "About 6 months into their relationship, they have certain expectations. I need to fit in." "You don't need to change for anyone," I'd said. She'd smiled sadly. "You don't understand their world." Maybe I didn't. I was a man who'd worked with my hands, who'd spent weeks at a time in remote drilling sites, who'd learned to cook and braid hair and help with homework because there was no one else to do it. I didn't understand a world where people judged you by your watch or your postal code. But I loved my daughter, so I tried. When Katie had called about the wedding venue deposit, I hadn't hesitated. "Dad, I know it's a lot to ask, but Ryan's parents are already paying for so much, and I can't ask them for more. The venue is perfect. It's at the Fairmont Palliser, but we need $40,000 by Friday or we lose it." $40,000. More than half my annual salary back when I'd started working. But Katie sounded desperate, and I had the money in my retirement savings. "Consider it my wedding gift," I'd said. "I want you to have the day you've always dreamed of." "You're the best father in the world," she'd said, crying. "I love you so much." 2 months later, it was the catering. "Dad, there's been a mix-up with the caterer. They're demanding payment up front, and Ryan's tied up in this big deal with his father. Can you help? It's $15,000. I'll pay you back. I promise." I'd sent the money that same day. Then came smaller requests. $2,000 for the photographer's retainer, $3,000 for the florist, $1,000 for the string quartet. Each time, Katie had an explanation. Ryan was handling other expenses. His parents were covering the honeymoon. There was some confusion with the wedding planner. I'd send it all without question, watching my retirement savings dwindle. What was money compared to my daughter's happiness? And now I wasn't invited to the wedding. I spent the weekend trying to make sense of it. I called my brother James in Edmonton, the only family I had left besides Katie. "Tom, you need to stop giving her money," James said bluntly. "I know she's your daughter, but something isn't made right here." She's getting married. Weddings are expensive. And now she's telling you that you can't come? To your own daughter's wedding? Come on, Tom, wake up. But I couldn't believe Katie would deliberately hurt me. There had to be an explanation. Maybe she was under pressure from Ryan's family. Maybe she was stressed about the wedding and hadn't explained herself well. I decided to give it a few days, then call her back. 3 weeks went by. I didn't hear from Katie. I texted a few times, asking how the wedding planning was going, but her responses were brief. Good, busy, talk soon. Then, on a Tuesday morning in early December, my phone buzzed with a text from Katie. Dad, I need you to transfer another $25,000. It's urgent, medical emergency. Please send it today. I stared at the message, my heart pounding. Medical emergency? Why hadn't she called? Why was she texting about something so serious? I called her immediately. It went to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail again. I texted back. What's wrong? What happened? Call me. Her response came 10 minutes later. Can't talk right now. At the hospital. Please just send the money. I'll explain later. $25,000. For a medical emergency. But Katie had excellent health insurance through her job. And if it was Ryan, his family certainly had the resources to handle any medical bills. Something felt wrong. I sat in my home office, looking at my computer screen, my finger hovering over the mouse. Every instinct I'd developed over 40 years of making careful, calculated decisions in high-stakes situations was screaming at me to stop, to wait, to ask questions. I typed back, Katie, I need to understand what's happening. What's the medical emergency? Which hospital are you at? I can come there right now. This time, the response took 20 minutes. Dad, why are you making this difficult? I need help, and you're interrogating me. Forget it. I'll figure it out myself. The guilt hit me like a physical blow. My daughter needed help, and I was questioning her. What kind of father was I? But then I thought about something James had said on the phone. Trust your gut, Tom. You've made million-dollar decisions based on incomplete information. You know when something doesn't add up. I made a decision. I texted back, which hospital, Katie? I'm coming now. No response. I waited an hour, then called the 3 major hospitals in Calgary, asking if a Katie Brennan or Katie Whitmore had been admitted. None of them had any record of her. My hands were shaking as I sat back in my chair. My daughter had lied to me. My daughter, who I'd raised to value honesty above everything, had just lied about a medical emergency to get money from me. I didn't sleep that night. I kept picking up my phone, thinking about calling her, then putting it down. By morning, I'd made another decision. I needed to know the truth, whatever it was. I had a friend, Martin Hughes, who'd retired from the Calgary Police Service after 30 years. We'd met through a community hockey league and stayed in touch. I called him Wednesday morning. Marty, I need a favor. I think something's going on with my daughter, and I need to know what. I explained the situation, the money I'd sent, the wedding I wasn't invited to, the fake medical emergency. Marty was quiet for a moment. Tom, I can't officially investigate anything, but I have a friend who runs a private investigation firm. He's good, and he's discreet. Want me to give him your number? 2 hours later, I was sitting across from David Chen in his office in Kensington. David was in his 50s, former RCMP, with kind eyes and a straightforward manner I appreciated. Mr. Brennan, I'll be honest with you. These situations often turn out to be exactly what you fear. Are you prepared for that? I need to know the truth, I said. Whatever it is, then let's start with the basics. I'll need your daughter's full name, date of birth, address, any social media accounts you know about. Her fiancé's information, too. I gave him everything I had. I'll start with basic surveillance and financial tracking, David said. Given what you've told me about the alleged medical emergency, I'm guessing we'll find something fairly quickly. I'll call you in a few days. It took less than 48 hours. David called me Friday afternoon. Can you come to my office? I'd rather show you this in person. The drive from my house in Edgemont to David's office normally took 20 minutes. I made it in 12. David had photographs spread across his desk. Time-stamped, dated, clear as day. Tuesday, December 3rd, David said. The day of the alleged medical emergency, 10:47 a.m. Your daughter Katie was photographed entering the TELUS Convention Center downtown. There was a luxury bridal expo happening that day. She spent 3 hours there. He showed me more photos. Katie browsing designer wedding dresses that probably cost more than my first car. Katie examining wedding cakes with price tags I couldn't even see clearly. Katie laughing with Ryan, both of them holding champagne flutes. 12:30 p.m. They had lunch at River Cafe. I have the receipt. $340 for 2 people. 3:15 p.m. They went to Tiffany & Co. at CF Chinook Center. David slid another photograph across the desk. Katie trying on what looked like a very expensive bracelet. At no point on Tuesday, December 3rd, did your daughter or her fiancé go anywhere near a hospital. I couldn't speak. I just stared at the photographs of my daughter, my little girl, living a life I didn't recognize, lying to my face. There's more, David said gently. I pulled some financial records. Nothing illegal, just public information and what you authorized me to access regarding the money you sent her. He showed me bank statements. The $40,000 I'd sent for the venue deposit had been withdrawn in cash 2 days after I'd transferred it. Same with the $15,000 for catering. The smaller amounts had been spent at high-end retailers, Holt Renfrew, Nordstrom, a jewelry store in Aspen Woods. Mr. Brennan, none of this money went to wedding expenses. I checked with the Fairmont Palliser. There's no wedding booked under either Brennan or Whitmore for any date in the next year. The room felt like it was tilting. What? I also checked with several high-end caterers, florists, and photographers in Calgary. None of them have any record of a booking for a Katie Brennan or Katie Whitmore wedding. But she's engaged. She has a ring. She's been planning this wedding for months. David's expression was sympathetic. She may be engaged. But based on what I've found, there's no wedding being planned. At least, not one that your money is paying for. I drove home in a daze. When I got there, I sat in my truck in the driveway for 20 minutes, watching the winter sun set behind the mountains in the distance, trying to understand how my daughter could do this to me. Finally, I went inside and called Katie. She answered on the third ring. Dad, hi. I'm sorry I haven't called. Things have been crazy. Katie, we need to talk. In person. There was a pause. Is everything okay? No, sweetheart. Everything is not okay. Can you come over tomorrow? I have plans with Ryan's family tomorrow. Can it wait until next week? No, I said, my voice harder than I'd intended. It can't wait. Tomorrow, Katie. 11 a.m. My house. This isn't negotiable. Another pause. Okay, Dad. I'll be there. She wasn't there at 11. She showed up at 11:45, wearing designer clothes I knew I'd probably paid for, carrying a handbag that cost more than I used to spend on groceries in a month. Sorry I'm late, she said, kissing my cheek like nothing was wrong. Traffic was terrible. I'd laid everything out on my dining room table. The bank statements David had shown me, copies of the photographs, a timeline of every dollar I'd sent and where it had actually gone. Katie saw the table and stopped. Her face went pale. Sit down, I said. Dad. I can explain. Sit. Down. She sat. I remained standing, looking at this stranger who wore my daughter's face. I want you to explain to me why you've stolen nearly $70,000 from me, I said quietly. I want you to explain why you lied about a medical emergency. I want you to explain why there's no wedding booked anywhere in this city. And I want you to explain why I'm not invited to the wedding that apparently doesn't exist. Katie's eyes filled with tears. Dad, you don't understand. Then make me understand. She looked down at her hands. Ryan's family has expectations. They have a certain lifestyle. I needed to fit in. I needed the right clothes, the right jewelry. When we go to events with his parents' friends, I can't show up looking like what? Like the daughter of a petroleum engineer? Like someone who doesn't come from money? You don't understand what it's like. Katie's voice rose. His mother looks at me like I'm not good enough. His sister makes comments about my background. I needed to prove that I belong in their world. By stealing from me? I wasn't stealing. I was going to pay you back. Once Ryan and I get married, we'll have access to family money, and I'll pay you back everything. I sat down then, suddenly exhausted. Katie, there is no wedding, is there? At least not one you've actually planned. She was quiet. Tell me the truth. We're engaged, she said defensively. We're going to get married eventually. Ryan just wants to wait until his father retires, and he takes over more of the business. Then we'll have the wedding. And in the meantime, you what? Spend my retirement savings pretending to be someone you're not? I knew you wouldn't understand. Katie stood up. You've never understood. You've never cared about anything except your oil fields and your precious savings. You don't know what it's like to want more out of life. I gave you more, I said, my voice breaking. I gave you everything I had. I worked 16-hour days in -40 weather, so you could have dance lessons and summer camps and a college education. I was both your mother and father after Sarah died. I taught myself to braid your hair by watching YouTube videos. I learned to cook meals your mother used to make because you missed them. I went to every single school event, every recital, every game, even when I had to drive 4 hours from a work site to make it on time. And you think I don't care about anything except money? Katie's face crumpled. Dad, I defended you when people said you were spoiled. When my friends warned me that you were taking advantage of me, I told them they were wrong, that my daughter would never do that. And all this time, you were lying to me. You excluded me from your wedding, a wedding that doesn't even exist, and then you lied about a medical emergency to get more money out of me. I'm sorry, she whispered. Are you? Or are you just sorry you got caught? She didn't answer. I want you to leave now, I said. And I want you to know that I've canceled all automatic transfers to your account. I've changed my will, and I've spoken to a lawyer about pressing charges for fraud. Katie's head snapped up. You wouldn't. Why not? You committed fraud. You lied to obtain money from me under false pretenses. That's a crime, Katie. I'm your daughter. My daughter died somewhere along the way, I said. I don't know who you've become, but she's not the girl I raised. Katie grabbed her expensive handbag and stood. Ryan was right about you. He said you'd never understand our world. He said you'd try to hold me back. Is that what Ryan says? I walked to the door and opened it. Tell Ryan that his world is built on lies and pretension. Tell him that real character isn't about what you own or who your parents are. And tell him that any man worth his salt wouldn't let his fiancée beg her father for money to support a lifestyle she can't afford. Katie walked past me, then turned in the doorway. You'll regret this. When Ryan and I get married, and you're not there, you'll regret it. I regret a lot of things already, I said. But protecting myself from being used isn't going to be one of them. She left. I closed the door and stood in my quiet house, surrounded by photos of a little girl who didn't exist anymore. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. I'd lost my wife to cancer. I'd worked through injuries and exhaustion and loneliness, but nothing compared to the grief of losing my daughter to her own choices. I didn't hear from Katie. I did hear from Ryan's father's lawyer, threatening legal action if I harassed Katie or Ryan further. I forwarded the letter to my own lawyer, along with all the evidence David Chen had compiled. The threatening letters stopped. Christmas came and went. I spent it with my brother James and his family in Edmonton. On New Year's Eve, I sat alone in my house and thought about my life, about the choices I'd made, about whether I'd failed as a father. Then, on January 17th, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Brennan? This is Amanda Whitmore, Ryan's sister. I was surprised. I'd met Amanda twice, briefly. She'd seemed pleasant enough, though distant. I wanted to talk to you about Katie, Amanda said. Can we meet for coffee? We met the next day at a Tim Hortons in Varsity. Amanda looked nervous, clutching her coffee cup with both hands. I need to tell you something, she said, about Ryan and Katie, about what's really going on. I'm listening. Ryan does this, Amanda said quietly. He finds women who aren't from our background, women who are impressed by money and status. He convinces them they need to change, to spend money they don't have to fit in. Then he controls them through debt and shame. I felt cold. How many women? Katie's the third that I know of. The first one, her name was Melissa. She was a teacher. Ryan convinced her to quit her job, said it wasn't prestigious enough. She went into debt buying the right clothes, the right car. When she couldn't keep up anymore, he dumped her. She had to declare bankruptcy. My God. The second one was Jennifer. She was a nurse. Same pattern. Ryan kept promising they'd get married, eventually, but there was always a reason to wait. She spent 2 years trying to become someone she wasn't. Last I heard, she'd moved back to Saskatchewan to live with her parents. And Katie? Amanda looked at me with genuine sympathy. Ryan has no intention of marrying her. He's already seeing someone new. Her name is Brittany. She works at the Calgary Stampede office. I've seen them together 3 times in the past month. The coffee in my cup had gone cold. Does Katie know? I don't know. I wanted to tell you because... Amanda paused. Because Ryan told me about the money. He was bragging about it to my father, about how Katie's old man was so easy to manipulate. My father laughed. He said it showed Ryan had good business instincts. I closed my eyes. I'm ashamed of my family, Amanda said softly. I'm ashamed I didn't say something sooner. But I wanted you to know the truth. Katie's not a bad person. She's just caught in my brother's game, and she doesn't even know she's playing. Thank you for telling me, I said. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. But Katie needs to know the truth, even if she doesn't want to hear it from me. I thought about it for 3 days. Then I compiled everything I had, the photographs, the financial records, and the information Amanda had given me about Ryan's pattern of behavior. I put it all in a FedEx envelope and sent it to Katie's apartment with a note. Katie, I love you. I will always love you. When you're ready to see the truth, I'm here, Dad. I didn't expect to hear from her. I'd made my peace with the possibility that my daughter might never speak to me again. But 10 days later, on a Sunday morning, there was a knock on my door. Katie stood there, and she looked broken. Her expensive clothes were rumpled. Her hair was unwashed. Her eyes were red from crying. He's been cheating on me, she said. For months. Everyone knew except me. I opened the door wider. Come inside, sweetheart. She collapsed on my couch and told me everything. How she'd confronted Ryan about the photographs I'd sent. How he'd denied it at first, then admitted it, then blamed her for not being enough. How he'd told her she'd never really fit into his world anyway. How his mother had said Katie was lucky Ryan gave her a chance at all. I'm so stupid, Katie sobbed. I gave up everything. I lied to you. I stole from you. And for what? For a man who never even loved me? I sat beside her and put my arm around her shoulders, the way I used to when she was little and had scraped her knee or been hurt by a thoughtless classmate. You're not stupid, I said. You got caught up in something toxic. But you're here now. You saw the truth. How can you even stand to look at me? After what I did to you? Because you're my daughter. That doesn't change, no matter what. Katie cried for a long time. When she finally stopped, she looked at me with swollen eyes. Dad, I know I can't make this right. I know I can't pay you back all that money. But I want to try. I'll get a second job. I'll work every extra shift I can. It might take me years, but I'll pay you back every penny. Katie, I don't want your money, but I want my daughter back. The real one, not the person you were pretending to be. She started crying again. I don't even know who that is anymore. Then we'll figure it out together. It wasn't easy. Katie moved back into my house for 3 months while she rebuilt her life. She'd quit her job at the marketing firm. Ryan's father had connections there. And she couldn't stand the whispers and the pity. She found new work at a small design studio in Inglewood, making less money but working with people who valued her for her talent, not her connections. She started seeing a therapist, Dr. Patricia Santos, who specialized in helping people recover from emotionally abusive relationships. Through therapy, Katie began to understand how Ryan had manipulated her, how he'd used her insecurities and her desire to please against her. He made me feel like I was never enough, Katie told me one evening, like I had to constantly prove my worth, and the more I tried, the more I lost myself. We had hard conversations about the money, about the lies, about why she'd felt she couldn't tell me the truth. I was ashamed, Katie said. You'd always worked so hard for everything you had. You'd taught me to value honesty and integrity. And there I was, lying and stealing and pretending to be someone I wasn't. I knew if you found out, you'd be so disappointed in me. I was disappointed, I admitted. But not because you made mistakes, because you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth. We could have faced this together, Katie. I know that now. Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt our relationship. Not the old one, where I was the hero and she was the little girl who thought I could fix everything. A new one, between 2 adults who'd both made mistakes and were learning to do better. Katie eventually moved into her own apartment, a modest 1-bedroom in Kensington that she could afford on her salary. She furnished it from thrift stores and IKEA, and she was proud of every piece she'd paid for herself. 6 months after she'd knocked on my door that Sunday morning, Katie took me out for dinner at a small Italian restaurant in Bridgeland. Dad, I want to give you something. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $5,000. Katie, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. It's not much, compared to what I took from you, but it's a start, and I'm going to keep paying you back, a little bit every month, until I've repaid every dollar. Sweetheart, please let me do this. I need to do this. Not because you're forcing me to, but because it's the right thing to do. Because you taught me that actions have consequences, and that we have to take responsibility for our mistakes. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and saw someone I recognized. Not the little girl I'd raised, but a woman who was learning to be strong in her own right. Okay, I said. But only if you promise me something. What? Promise me that you'll never again change who you are to please someone else. Promise me that you'll remember that your worth isn't determined by what you own or who you know. Promise me that you'll be honest, even when it's hard. Katie reached across the table and took my hand. I promise, Dad. It's been 2 years now since that terrible December when I discovered the truth. Katie and I have dinner together every Sunday. She's been promoted twice at her design studio. She's dating a high school teacher named Marcus Chen, a kind, genuine man who loves her for exactly who she is. They live modestly, laugh often, and talk about saving up for a small wedding in a few years, a real one I'll be invited to. I never got back all the money Katie took. She's paid me about $20,000 so far, sending me a check every month without fail. But money was never really the point. I learned something through all of this, something I wish I'd understood sooner. Love without boundaries isn't love, it's enabling. True generosity isn't about giving people everything they ask for. It's about helping them become who they're meant to be. I also learned that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, even when it means standing up to someone you love. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's necessary. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop protecting them from the consequences of their actions. Katie learned things too. She learned that real wealth isn't about designer clothes or exclusive clubs. It's about integrity, about genuine relationships, about being able to look at yourself in the mirror and respect the person looking back. She learned that the right people will love you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be. Most importantly, we both learned that trust, once broken, can be rebuilt, but only if both people are willing to do the hard work of being honest, even when honesty hurts. I'm 65 now. Katie is 30. When I look at her, I see my Sarah's kindness and strength, but I also see someone who survived her own mistakes and come out stronger. She's not perfect, neither am I. But we're real with each other now, in a way we never were before. Last Sunday, over dinner, Katie told me that she and Marcus are thinking about getting engaged. And Dad, she said, smiling, you're going to walk me down the aisle. No excuses. You're the only father I've got. And I'm not getting married without you there. I had to wipe my eyes. I wouldn't miss it for the world, sweetheart. She squeezed my hand. I know, Dad. I finally know. If you're reading this and you see yourself in my story, whether you're the generous parent being taken advantage of, or the child who's lost themselves trying to be someone they're not, I want you to know something. It's not too late to change the pattern. It's not too late to tell the truth. It's not too late to set boundaries or to respect the ones others set. Real love isn't about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It's about showing up. It's about honesty. It's about loving someone enough to tell them the truth, even when they don't want to hear it. It's about respecting yourself enough to walk away from people who treat you like an ATM instead of a human being. And sometimes, it's about forgiving someone who's genuinely changed, who's done the hard work of becoming a better person, who's proven through their actions, not just their words, that they're committed to doing things differently. Katie and I both have scars from what happened, but we also have something stronger than we had before, a relationship built on truth instead of illusion, on mutual respect instead of blind trust, on genuine love instead of guilt and obligation. That's worth more than any amount of money I'll never get back.